Let's look at how to select the best form of business organizations to increase the value of owners or shareholders. Probably you already know about different forms of business organizations. I'll try to sum up with the financial implications of different form of business organizations. So there are three types of business organization. First of all, sole proprietorship, which is owned and managed by one person. Then partnership, which is usually owned and managed by more than one person. And partnership also requires partnership agreement. And finally, corporation, which is a legal entity, and corporation is separate and distinct from its owners. If we look at sole proprietorship, we know that sole proprietorship is owned and managed by one person. There are some advantages and disadvantages of sole proprietorship. So the first advantage of sole proprietorship is it is the easiest form of business organization to start, because sole proprietorships are not much regulated and there is not much capital requirement for sole proprietorship. So sole proprietorships are really easy to start. Then single owners of the sole proprietorship can enjoy all the benefits of the business and can keep all the profits of the business. And there are also some tax benefit of sole proprietorship, because tax of sole proprietorship is like tax on personal income. So the sole proprietorship or the sole proprietor does not need to worry about double taxation. Let's look at the disadvantages of sole proprietorship. First of all, the life of sole proprietorship is limited to the life of owners. It means if the owner dies, the sole proprietorship will also die, or if the owner decides to close his business, the sole proprietorship will be closed. Then the equity capital, or in other words, the amount of capital which can be raised by a sole proprietorship is very much limited to the owner's personal wealth. So if it is a sole proprietorship, it is not usually possible to raise much capital, and it is much harder to grow the business as a sole proprietorship. Then sole proprietorship has also unlimited liability. That means the owner of the sole proprietorship is responsible for all the liability of the business. And finally, it is always difficult to sell ownership interest of the sole proprietorship, because if the owner of the sole proprietorship tries to sell his business, or he or she needs to find out a person who is interested to invest in his or her business. Otherwise, the person will not be able to sell his ownership interest. Now we look at partnership. We know that partnership is formed by more than one person, and partnership usually also requires partnership agreements among the partners of the business. There are some advantages of partnership. So as there are two or more owners in a partnership, it is easier for them to raise more capital for the business. Then partnership is also relatively easy to start, because only license and partnership agreement is required for the partnership. There is not much corporate regulations or partnership, so it is relatively easy to start. And finally, partnership has also some tax benefit, because owners of partnership needs to pay tax as their personal income. So for partnership, there is no problem with double taxation. Then let's look. Then there are some disadvantages of partnership as well. First of all, unlimited liability. There are two types of partnership: general partnership and limited partnership. General partners have unlimited liability, and general partners can take decisions on their business. On the other hand, limited partners have limited liability, but limited partners cannot take decision of the business. That means the limited partners cannot participate in decision making of the business. So the general partners have unlimited liability like sole proprietorship. Then it is also difficult to dissolve partnership when one partner dies or wishes to sell his or her partnership interest. And finally, it is also the partnership is also difficult. In case of partnership, it is also difficult to transfer ownership. Now we look at corporation. Probably we know that corporation is a legal entity and it is separate and distinct from its owners. There are some advantages of corporation. First of all, it has limited liability. So corporation overcomes the disadvantages of sole proprietorship and partnership, which have unlimited liability. Then corporation has unlimited life. So like proprietorship or partnership has limited life, corporation does not have limited life, rather corporation has unlimited life. So and corporation is also separate from its owners and managers. So a corporation can run in its own way. Then ownership transfer of corporation is easy because shareholders of corporation can easily sell their share in the capital market or in some other way. And finally, the biggest advantage of corporation is it is easier to raise capital. A corporation can raise capital through bank loan. A corporation can raise capital by selling additional share, or corporation can raise capital by selling financial instrument like bond or other money market securities. So it is easier for a corporation to raise more capital and grow the business. Now let's look at the disadvantages of corporation. So one of the disadvantages is corporation is separate from its owners and managers. So owners and managers of the corporation do not usually have full control over the business. Then corporation is also subject to double taxation. It means income of the corporations are taxed twice. First of all, corporation needs to pay corporate tax as per the law of the country. Then shareholders of the corporation also need to pay personal tax if they receive dividends from the corporation. So corporations practically pay the taxes twice. Taxes twice, like corporate tax, and shareholders of the corporation pay personal tax on their dividend income. Now let's look at the self-test question. The question is, why is the corporate form superior when it comes to raising cash? So we have already discussed that corporations can raise more capital than sole proprietorship and partnership because corporations has many options to raise capital. Like corporation can definitely raise capital from financial institutions. That means it can take loan from financial institution. Then corporations can also raise capital by selling shares in the capital market, and corporations have also the option to raise capital by selling financial securities like bond or money market securities. So it is much easier for corporations to raise capital. Therefore, it is much easier for corporation to grow the business. So from the financial perspective, if you have limited if you have limited capital, it is easier to start with a sole proprietorship. But if you want to grow your business, if you want to become a multinational corporations from a domestic corporation, it is much easier to form the business as a corporation, because corporations have more access to capital.